Hello everyone. In this quick short video, we will be learning about the differences between the oceanic and the continental crust. ये तो सबको ही पता है that the oceanic crust is the one which forms the sea floor beneath the ocean, whereas the continental crust is the one which forms the landmass, basically the continents and the islands we have. Talking about the thickness, the oceanic crust is very thin in comparison to the continental crust. Oceanic crust is around 1 to 3 kilometers thick, whereas the continental crust is about 30 to 70 kilometer thick. And in some point of land masses, it can extend up to 80 kilometer thickness also. Talking about the composition, the oceanic crust is mainly composed of ferromagnesium silicate. Now, what does that mean? That simply means that the composition is rich in iron and magnesium. Therefore, it is very mafic. Whereas, on the other hand, the continental crust is is composed of non-ferromagnesium silicates. That is, it is not rich in iron, but it is rich in silica and aluminium, and therefore it is also known as. But also, it is therefore it is dominated by felsic materials. Then the dominant rock of the oceans are basalt and gabbro, whereas the continental crust there are various rocks which dominate, such as granite, diorite, rhyolite, gneiss, schist, and various other felsic rock. Now, talking about the density, so the oceanic crust, though it is thinner than the continental crust, but it is highly dense than the continental crust. Its density can be up to 3 or 3.5 also. Whereas the continental crust, the density is generally lower than 2.5. Now, due to this density difference, the tectonic behavior of these two plates are very different. So, talking about the oceanic crust, because it is more dense, it gets subducted under the continental crust at the convergent boundary. For better clarity, look at this diagram. This is a oceanic plate and this is a continental plate. At a convergent boundary, when they'll collide, due to the high density of the oceanic crust, it will subduct beneath the continental crust. Whereas the continental crust won't get subducted and it forms mountains at such boundaries. Now, due to this, if you look at the age, the oceanic crust are generally younger in age. Why they are younger in age? It is a fact that oceans when the earth was formed. At that time, oceans were older than the continents that exist today. But the oceanic plates or the oceanic crust that is existing today is not older than the continental crust of today's present time. Why this is? Because इसका एक सिंपल सा रीजन है. Suppose if this was a oceanic crust and this was a continental crust and this was another continental crust. Suppose this is the oldest among all of them, but what is the character of this? It is thick. Oh, sorry, it is more dense, so it will subduct. So once the subduction process will start, now this layer will subduct like this, and at final we'll have a continental crust and a continental crust, and there will be double thrusting, and this one will get completely subducted inside uh, the earth's interior. So this will no longer exist. Therefore, the oceanic crust that we have today is generally comparatively younger than the continental crust that exists today. However, that does not mean that at some point of time continents were made before the ocean. Now, formation of this oceanic crust, they are basically formed at the mid oceanic ridges by the cooling of magma. And what happens is, so suppose this is a oceanic ridge, this is a oceanic crust. Now there are just give me a second. Okay, so there is a convection cell of magma. Magma rises and moves like this. So what happens? Suppose this is a an oceanic plate. This is the ocean, and here this is the continental plate. Now when this magma rise na, this can crack up this plate. So what happens is this start looking like this. There is a opening from where the magma comes out, and it spreads in both the direction, and then it forms a plate. So these location from where there is a opening, these are called as mid oceanic ridges more, and the lava spreading both the side, the magma, this will form plates, and this is the location where the oceanic plates are formed. So we have seen the age, we have seen the formation, elevation. They are mostly the oceanic crust is at or below sea level. Continental will be above the sea level. Heat flow, there is a higher heat flow. अभी बताया था उस डायग्राम में, because it is the convection current, the rising magma, उसके कांटेक्ट में ये ज़्यादा रहते हैं, तो यहाँ पे हायर हीट फ्लो है. Here it is a lower heat flow. Buoyancy में these are denser. अब dense हैं तो obviously they will be less buoyant, and ये वाले they are less denser, so obviously they will be more buoyant. टेक्टोनिक बिहेवियर मैंने बता दिया है. So these were basically the basic key differences between the oceanic crust and the continental crust. Now let us summarize it quickly. The key takeaways are: oceanic crust is thin, dense, young, basaltic, and they are forming the ocean basin. Plus, they are composed of ferromagnesium silicates. Whereas the continental crust, it is thick but less dense, ancient, and mostly dominated by granitic, and they forms the continent. They are non-ferromagnesium silicate, and the composition typically यही वाला ferromagnesium silicate, non-ferromagnesium silicate, and this is how the subduction happens. This I have already explained. So yeah, this was a basic difference between the oceanic crust and the continental crust.